As I stepped into the Monarch Regency, I ran my hands over my plain blue dress, trying to smooth out the wrinkles. My heart was pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. Today was the day my daughter Grace was getting married, and no matter what had happened leading up to it, I couldn't help but feel a smile tug at my lips. The lobby sparkled with polished marble floors and glittering crystal fixtures, exactly the kind of fancy place I figured Tyler's family would pick for a wedding. Suddenly I heard Grace's voice calling out, clear as a bell across the lobby. I turned and spotted her weaving through the crowd, still dressed in her everyday clothes, hurrying over to me. "You made it," she said, but I could see right away that her smile was a little too tight, and her shoulders were bunched up with tension. I knew that look all too well. "Of course I made it, sweetheart. There's no way I'd miss your wedding," I told her, reaching out for a hug. But Grace stepped back just a bit, her eyes darting around like she was looking for an escape. "Mom, I need to talk to you," she said, twisting her hands together. "Tyler's family, they changed the seating chart." My stomach clenched. Ever since Tyler's mother, Beverly Caldwell, had taken over the wedding plans, I'd been bracing myself for something like this. "What did they change?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "They moved you to the back table," Grace blurted out, the words tumbling over each other. "It's by the kitchen doors. Beverly says it's because of the photographer, but..." She trailed off, not quite able to look me in the eye. Before I could say anything, a sharp voice sliced through our conversation. "Grace, what are you doing down here? You're supposed to be in the bridal suite right now." Beverly Caldwell marched across the lobby, her expensive heels clicking on the marble. She gave me a quick once-over, her expression barely hiding her disapproval. "Oh, you're here," she said, as if I was an unexpected inconvenience. I straightened up and tried to sound polite. "Hello, Beverly. The hotel looks beautiful." Beverly gave me a frosty smile. "Yes, well, we wanted everything to be just right for Tyler and Grace. Speaking of which," she turned to Grace, "your hair appointment started 10 minutes ago. We can't keep everyone waiting." Grace hesitated, glancing between me and Beverly. "Mom, I'm sorry about..." "Go on, honey," I said softly. "This is your day. Don't worry about me." Grace hurried off, and as soon as she was out of earshot, Beverly's friendly act vanished. "Let's get something straight," she said, her voice low and sharp. "Grace wanted you here, but you don't really belong with our crowd. The Caldwells have a certain image to uphold." I kept my voice calm. "I'm just here for my daughter." "Exactly. And you can support her from the back of the room. We don't need your humble background showing up in the wedding photos. I'm sure you get it." Beverly's smile was as cold as ice. "Oh, and we've arranged for the staff meals to be served at your table." It seemed fitting. With that, Beverly turned on her heel and walked away, leaving me standing alone in the middle of that grand lobby. For a moment, I let myself feel the sting of embarrassment. I thought about all those extra shifts I'd worked at Starlight Medical Center, picking up overtime as a nurse to help pay for Grace's schooling. All the late nights I'd spent helping her study for her Crestview Medical College exams, bursting with pride when she got accepted. Now she was marrying into the Caldwell family, who owned the biggest hospital network in the Commonwealth, and suddenly, all my years of hard work seemed invisible. I made my way to Crystal Hall, where the ceremony would be held in a few hours. The place was breathtaking, crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, fresh flowers decorated every table, and Harmony Ensemble was setting up in the corner. But as I walked toward the back, I saw my table tucked behind a big pillar, right next to the swinging doors to the kitchen. "Mrs. Parker?" A young woman in a hotel uniform approached me. "I'm Molly from Guest Relations. They told me you'd be sitting here." I nodded, catching the sympathy in Molly's eyes. "That's right," I said. Molly leaned in a little closer, lowering her voice as she glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Here's the thing," she said, "everyone on the staff knows who you are. My sister was at Riverside Memorial last year, and you were the nurse who pulled that insane 30-hour shift during the crisis. You saved her life." I blinked, caught off guard. That night was still fresh in my memory. A huge accident on the highway had flooded the ER with patients, and I'd stayed long after my shift ended, working until I could barely keep my eyes open. Molly went on, "We all think it's wrong the way they're treating you. I just wanted you to know if you need anything at all, just ask. The whole staff is rooting for you." I stood there for a second, letting her words sink in. Then suddenly I remembered something that might just turn the tables. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. Actually, I said, a small grin forming, there is something you could help me with. But first I need to make a quick call. As I dialed a familiar number, I watched the Caldwell family sweep through Crystal Hall, barking orders and fussing over every little detail. Beverly was right in the middle of it, waving her hands and complaining about some tiny flaw in the table settings. Hey Victor. It's Linda Parker. Remember that favor you offered me? I think it's time to take you up on it. The next couple of hours flew by in a whirlwind. From my spot in the back, I watched as Crystal Hall filled up with guests, all decked out in expensive clothes and sparkling jewelry. The Caldwells greeted everyone with big hugs and air kisses, at least until they caught sight of me. I overheard one woman whisper to Beverly, "Is that her? The nurse?" Beverly didn't bother to lower her voice. "Yes, unfortunately. But don't worry, we've made sure she's out of the way. Nothing's going to ruin Tyler's big day." I glanced at my watch, knowing it wouldn't be long now. Sure enough, the first sign that something was off came when Molly and 3 other servers quietly took off their uniforms, revealing regular street clothes underneath. They walked straight through the center of Crystal Hall, heading for the exit. "Where do you think you're going?" Beverly snapped, her voice sharp. "We haven't even served the appetizers." Molly turned around, her chin held high. "We quit." Before Beverly could say another word, more staff started following their lead. The beverage team packed up their things, the carriage service guys left their posts, and even the event planner shut her laptop and walked out. Beverly's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. "What is going on here? You can't just leave. We have a contract." A deep voice echoed from the doorway. "Actually, they can." Victor Lin, the CEO of the hotel chain, strode into Crystal Hall. The whole room seemed to freeze as he walked in, and I had to fight back a smile watching Beverly's face go from furious to confused to suddenly very polite. "Mr. Lin." Beverly rushed over. "There must be some mistake. We booked this place months ago and now your staff is following my direct orders." Victor cut her off. He turned to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but the Monarch will not be able to host this event today. I've instructed all staff to stop work immediately." The room erupted into chaos. Guests started whispering, Tyler's father was shouting about lawyers, and poor Grace looked like she might faint. "Mom." Grace pushed her way through the crowd to my side. "What's going on?" Before I could answer, Victor spotted me and broke into a warm smile. "Linda, there you are." Beverly spun around so fast I thought she might hurt herself. You know each other?" Victor let out a laugh. "Know each other? Linda Parker saved my daughter's life last year. She caught a rare condition that every other doctor missed, and she stayed by her side all night making sure she pulled through." He turned to me. "I told you then, anything you ever need, just ask." I meant it. I could see the realization dawning on the guests' faces, and Beverly's expression was pure horror. But Victor wasn't finished. His voice carried across the now silent room. "Linda Parker is also on the executive council for our hospital group's Hopewell Health Foundation. She's played a huge role in getting millions of dollars to communities that need it most. When she called to tell me how she was being treated at her own daughter's wedding." He shook his head. "Let's just say the Monarch doesn't stand for that kind of behavior." Grace turned to me, her eyes brimming with tears. "Mom, I had no idea. Why didn't you ever tell me?" I squeezed Grace's hand gently. "Sweetheart, I wanted you to find your own path. I never wanted my connections to shape your decisions or make things easier for you. But I'll tell you this, I won't stand by and let anyone treat us like we're less than they are." Beverly's voice cut through the room, high and frantic. "This is outrageous. You can't just take over our wedding. Do you have any idea how much money we've spent?" I kept my voice steady and calm. "Oh, I'm not ending your wedding, Beverly." I nodded at Victor, who signaled to the staff waiting by the doors. New teams of servers rolled in fresh carts, ready to take over. "I'm just running things from here on out." Beverly looked like she was about to argue, but no words came out. I continued, "The wedding will go on if Grace and Tyler still want it to, but there'll be new management. And the seating chart's getting a little update too." Tyler, who'd been standing off to the side, finally found his voice. "Mrs. Parker, I'm so sorry. I had no idea my parents were treating you like this." He turned to Grace, regret written all over his face. "And I'm sorry I didn't speak up for you and your mom sooner." Grace's eyes were full of tears as she looked from Tyler to me. Mom, I'm sorry too. I should have stood up for you. I shook my head, firm but gentle. No more apologies. This is your wedding day. Let's make it one to remember for the right reasons. Turning to the guests, I raised my voice so everyone could hear. Anyone who wants to stay and celebrate Grace and Tyler is welcome. But in this room, everyone's on the same level. We're all family here. What happened next was something I'll never forget. The Caldwells, suddenly humbled, faded into the background. The rest of the guests, freed from all that judgment and pretense, started to relax and enjoy themselves. And Grace, she looked at me with so much pride I thought my heart might burst. The ceremony started a little late, but it felt more real than ever. I took my seat right up front where I belonged. Molly, back in her uniform, caught my eye and gave me a quick wink. I smiled, thinking about how this day had turned out so differently than I'd imagined. Sometimes the best way to get back at people isn't by fighting, it's by standing tall and showing them who you really are. But the day still had one more surprise in store. As the reception got underway, I watched the room with a quiet sense of satisfaction. Harmony ensemble played softly, and people mingled without worrying about who was important and who wasn't. Beverly Caldwell sat at the table by the kitchen doors, the very spot she tried to stick me in, looking completely defeated. Her husband, Frank, kept glancing at his phone, probably trying to figure out how much damage control he'd have to do. I almost felt bad for them. Almost. Mrs. Parker? Tyler came over, looking a little nervous but determined. Could we talk for a minute, just the two of us? I nodded and followed him to a quiet corner. He took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. I want you to know, he started. I've made a decision. I'm stepping down from my job in my family's hospital administration. My eyebrows shot up. Tyler, you don't have to do that, he shook his head. I do. I've been thinking about it for a while. I only went into administration because it was expected of me, but... He straightened up, looking me in the eye. I want to go to Crestview Medical College like Grace. I want to help people the way you do. A warm smile spread across my face. Grace never mentioned that. He looked a little sheepish. I never told her. I was scared of letting my parents down. But after seeing how you handled everything today with so much strength and dignity, I realized I've been living for the wrong reasons. Before I could say anything else, Victor Lynn appeared at my side. Linda, there's someone here who'd like a word with you. He nodded toward the entrance where I saw an elegant older woman waiting. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized Dr. Elaine Foster, the Commonwealth's Health Commissioner. Dr. Foster walked over with a warm smile. Linda Parker, I'm so glad I could make it even if I am running a little late. Beverly and Frank Caldwell, who'd been watching from their table, nearly stumbled over each other in their rush to greet her. Commissioner Foster. Beverly gushed, her voice dripping with false excitement. What a wonderful surprise. Dr. Foster cut her off with a cool glance. That's enough, Beverly. I'm here to talk with Linda. She turned back to me, her smile genuine. The council session is coming up next week and I wanted to tell you in person, we've reviewed your proposal for the new neighborhood wellness project. Not only are we approving it, but we're doubling the funding. The look on the Caldwells' faces was priceless, mouths open, completely stunned. Dr. Foster wasn't finished. And there's more. I'm retiring next year and Governor Harris has been asking for recommendations for my replacement. He gave me a look that made my heart skip. I'd like to put your name forward if you're interested. The whole Crystal Hall had gone quiet, everyone straining to catch every word. I felt Grace slip her hand into mine. I hadn't even noticed her come up beside me. Mom, she whispered, you never told me about any of this. I squeezed her hand, feeling a wave of emotion. I always thought our work should speak for itself. All those nights I was working late, I was also building relationships, starting programs, looking for ways to help more people. I never needed the spotlight. I just wanted to make a difference. Dr. Foster nodded, her voice firm. That's exactly why you're the right person for the job. Beverly looked like she might faint. But she's just a nurse. Dr. Foster raised an eyebrow. Just a nurse? Beverly, Linda Parker has done more for healthcare in this Commonwealth than your entire hospital network. While you were busy planning parties and worrying about appearances, she was out there saving lives and changing the system for the better. Tyler stepped forward, his voice steady. Commissioner Foster, I'd love to hear more about the neighborhood wellness project. I'm planning to apply to Crestview Medical College and medical school? Beverly's voice was shrill. You're supposed to take over the family business. Tyler shook his head. No, Mom. I'm going to follow my own path just like Grace did. Just like Mrs. Parker taught her to do. The rest of the evening felt completely different from what anyone had expected. The Caldwells faded into the background, their social power gone. Meanwhile, I found myself surrounded by people who wanted to talk about my work and the future of healthcare in our Commonwealth. Watching Grace and Tyler share their first dance, I realized how much this day had changed. I hadn't come here to embarrass anyone or prove myself, I just refused to let anyone make me feel small. Molly showed up at my side with a glass of champagne and a big grin. You know, when my sister told me about the nurse who saved her life, she said you were an angel. But after today, I think you might actually be a ninja. I laughed, taking the champagne. Sometimes the best way to get back at people isn't by fighting, it's by standing tall and letting your actions speak for themselves. Later that night, as the party was winding down, Grace found me alone out on the Skyview terrace, looking out over the city lights. Mom, she said softly, I'm sorry for everything. Not just today, but for pulling away trying to fit into Tyler's world. I lost sight of who I am, who you taught me to be. I turned to her and for a moment I saw the little girl who used to fall asleep with medical books in her lap, wanting to be just like her mom. You never have to apologize for trying to find your own way, I told her, pulling her into a hug. But remember, your worth isn't about who you marry or what family you join. It's about what you do, how you treat people, and the difference you make. Grace dabbed at her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup. I know that now more than ever. She smiled, a little mischievous. So, Health Commissioner Parker. I laughed. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Why not? She said, her eyes shining. After today, I think anything's possible. Standing side by side with Grace, gazing out over the city lights, I felt a calm settle deep inside me. The Caldwells had tried to remind me of my place, never realizing I'd already carved out my own, a place built on respect, dignity, and real achievement. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Victor. The staff can't stop talking about what happened yesterday. You're a legend at the Monarch now. I couldn't help but grin as I typed back. Sometimes, the sweetest kind of revenge isn't about getting even, it's about living honestly and letting others see what real strength looks like. Setting my phone aside, I thought about the long road that had brought me here. Years of hard work, quiet persistence, and sticking to my principles had built a foundation no amount of social climbing could shake. The Caldwells had only seen me as a nurse, never realizing that every life I'd touched, every program I'd started, and every friendship I'd made had created a legacy worth more than any fancy title or family name. In the end, I didn't have to tear anyone down. All I had to do was stand tall and let the truth shine through. And as I got ready for another shift at Starlight Medical Center, commissioner nomination or not, I knew there were still people counting on me. I smiled to myself, realizing that the real victory wasn't about proving anyone else wrong. It was about proving to myself that I'd been right all along.